Divorce, the splitting of a couple who vowed to be with one another until
death do them part,
is not to be taken lightly, especially because the divorce process is a nightmare. Two people who were once in love start fighting brutally over the possession of their assets, money, custody of the kids, etc. And this process is especially brutal in Korea, where there is no-fault divorce. You have to prove in a court of law why your marriage should end. And they might not even approve the divorce, so you gotta bring the big guns when you're in divorce court. You really gotta throw your partner under the bus and prove why they are unfit to be a spouse. And you really gotta sell it that this marriage cannot go on because you don't want them to not approve the divorce. And Korea is one of the hardest places in the world to get a divorce. But despite that, divorce is on the rise. In Asia, Korea toggles between first and second place for the amount of divorces. So today we're going to talk about some reasons why Korean people divorce, what groups of people are getting divorced, and why Korea is one of the hardest places in the world to get a divorce.
Let it bounce.
Hello friends and family, this is Megan Moon, aka Charlotte 미국 사람. And I just want to tell you that my Korean skincare is back on sale. You get a full skincare set, cleanser, toner, serum, and cream for $56 and free international shipping. This offer will be going on until December the 8th. You don't want to miss out because we won't be offering it again until next year in May. All the information will be down below. So there are three types of divorce in Korea. The first one is 합의 이혼, which is divorce by agreement.
Agreed.
It is kind of the most simple one. Basically, both people realize, you know what? This relationship is not for us. Let's end it. They agree on everything, and then they just go down to the local office, fill out some paperwork, and then basically it's done. You do have to come back 1 to 3 months later to fill out some more stuff. But if there's even one thing that you can't agree on, how you're going to divide the custody or the money, etc., then there is another type of divorce, 조정이혼, which is divorce by mediation. That is where you go before court-appointed people and have sort of a mediation session, and they help you to decide on the division of assets, childcare, etc. But even if through this mediation process, things cannot get figured out and you want some kind of compensation for all the hardships that your partner put you through in marriage, then you gotta go to court. You gotta go to a 소송이혼, divorce by trial. People also have to do divorce trials when only one person wants the divorce, because you cannot do an agreement divorce if only one person wants the divorce. There are only 6 legal grounds for divorce in Korea. So if your case doesn't fit one of these 6 reasons for divorce, even if you want a divorce but your partner doesn't, then it will be impossible to do a divorce by trial. So the 6 legal grounds for divorce in Korea are adultery. And the next one is when one party has left the matrimonial home without either a good reason or the consent of the other party. And the next one is any sort of mistreatment that you receive from a spouse or anyone in their family. Also, if your spouse mistreats your parents, then you can divorce them. The 5th legally recognized reason for divorce is when your spouse has just disappeared and their location has remained unknown for at least 3 years. This one, I was like, 3 years? That's a long time. I feel like as a husband and wife, if your spouse disappeared even 6 months without any contact from you, I think they're either dead or it's pretty clear that they don't want to have anything to be done with you. And the 6th one just says, in the case of any other grave cause, making the continuation of the marriage impossible. So it has to be something that they deem to be very serious. So your reason for divorce has to fall underneath one of those 6 legally recognized reasons. And there are some situations that I see on Korean TV where lawyers are saying, this is not grounds for divorce. But if I was in that situation, I would want to get a divorce. So I'm like, damn, you can't even divorce somebody for this. For example, recently there was a case that I saw on JTBC on 사건 판장. There was a man. He got married, and in Korea, it's common for a lot of women still who don't really want to work. So as soon as they get married, they're like, I'm gonna be a housewife, even before children are had. And it's also very common for the women to manage the money in the household. So after 4 years of being married, he never actually checked at all. He just sort of trusted that she was doing the right thing and saving up money. 2 people living well below their means in a small apartment making $8,000 a month, you'd expect that there would be tens of thousands of dollars saved up. They were considering having a baby and they wanted to move into a bigger house. So he asked the wife, hey, how much money have we saved up? And she was very hesitant. How much money do you think was in that bank account? 50 cents. 742 won. He found out that she was sending the money to her mom. During this time that they'd been married for 4 years, her and her mom went on many trips together, and she told her husband that her mom owns a building. So whenever we went on these trips, my mom was paying for it. But it turns out he was paying for all the trips that she went on with her mom. She was giving her mom a monthly allowance of like a couple $1,000s and also paying for her mom's rent. And then also we found out that the mother was working, but after her daughter got married, the mom quit the job too. They both quit at the same time and were like, okay, we're just gonna live off of the husband. The other shitty thing is she didn't want him giving money to his family. This woman, he found the wrong woman. And what's crazy is that the lawyer on this show said that this situation wouldn't qualify for divorce because in this situation, the wife is not going to agree to the divorce because she wanted to live off him. It doesn't classify under one of the 6 legally recognized reasons for divorce. So literally it just depends on convincing your partner that you should get a divorce so they allow you to get the agreement divorce. But if not, then you can't. And when you do these divorce by trial, everything that you say about your partner, you have to have evidence. And this is what I heard is hard for some people. Let's say you found out that your partner is cheating. You confronted them right away. A lot of people don't have the patience to wait to gather evidence. They sort of confront their partner right away, but then their partner is going to delete all the evidence. So you can't just go to court and say, yeah, they cheated without any evidence. And also, depending on how you gathered the evidence, you may or may not get a fine. For example, if you just go into your partner's phone without their knowledge and look, you want to take screen captures of that and use it in court. If you went in someone's phone, you would be fined and get in trouble for going through someone's phone, spouse or not. So from the stories I heard, people typically get their evidence by black boxes in the car. So in Korea, when you have a car, it's required that you have a black box, which is a camera that sees everything that you see. And it also records audio of inside of the car. If you're new to my channel and you don't know my skincare routine, let's go over it. First, I use a green tea enzymatic powder wash. Just put a little in your hand, mix it with some water. You only need a little bit. It's great because it contains baking soda. It will clean out your pores without stripping your skin. And it really cleans and makes the skin so smooth. It's pH balanced and great for all skin types. Green tea is a powerful antioxidant for the skin. It helps with anti-aging and also helps with inflammation. I'm from Rice Toner. It contains rice extract. I like to apply toner with my hand, and this helps to add luster to the skin and also helps to repair your natural skin barrier. So smooth. I'm from Freshly Juiced Vitamin C Drops. It's a powerful antioxidant. It helps with anti-aging and also helps to smooth and even out skin tone. So it's really good if you have acne scars, and also helps to minimize the pores. Vitamin E mask. It's interesting because it has a nice pudding texture, and the thing about vitamin E is that it actually enhances the effects of vitamin C. Your skin gonna love it. It brightens the skin, prevents aging, and helps your skin to become more firmer and hydrated. Ooh, look at that. So firm, so radiant, so nice. I've been using this for so many years and I've yet to find a combination that I think works better on my skin. And so many of you guys love this skincare too, which is why we put on this sale every November and May. What a steal for 4 amazing skincare products. So make sure you don't miss out. When it comes to custody of the kids, one thing that's different that I've heard from, like, let's say in America, is that child support is capped at a certain amount. So the most amount of money that you could get for child support would be 2,660,000 won, which would be like 2,000 US dollars. And that's only if the combined income of the two is more than 9 million won a month, which is like, 8,000 US dollars. And that's when the child is from age 15 to 18. And also one thing that I heard is that here, a lot of people in divorce court, when it comes to custody of the kids, will actually fight to not get custody of their kids. That was something that actually shocked me. Raising kids in Korea is really hard.
Really freaking hard.
So like parents go out to work, they're gone all day. Basically, they come home late in the evening to one of the in-laws who's been taking care of the babies all day and has gotten dinner ready and is basically doing everything in the house. What a lot of people realize is that if they get a divorce, then they will have to take care of the kid on their own and it can be very difficult. So one of the divorce lawyers said that people will be like, they're a horrible person, I want to get a divorce, but they're such a good parent, and they literally will try and prove why that other person is a better parent than they are.
They're really good parents.
Obviously, those cases probably exist everywhere, but I've heard it talked about more here, especially because when you have kids and you try and get remarried, it can be much harder for you. So there are so many cases of people after a divorce sort of pretending like they don't have kids.
I don't have a kid.
Not even telling their new spouse that they were even married before or had kids before. A growing part of the population have actually sort of started to accept divorce, like, it could happen. And now one thing that I've heard is like, let's say you're unhappy in your marriage and you tell your parents. The parents will say, hey, then you could get a divorce, I'll help you. Whereas even in just a previous generation, if you told your parents you wanted to get divorced, they might be like, what?
Stick it out.
So in society, people are getting a little bit more comfortable with divorce. And that's why we're seeing one of the biggest groups that's having a big increase in divorce is actually the 50, 60-year-olds. I made a video before about why marriage in Korea is hard, especially because of a lot of the old Confucian values. The 50, 60-year-olds now, their culture was so different even just one generation ago that most of those people seem to be very unhappily married. But now that their kids are all grown and married, they sort of feel like, well, why am I going to stay in this relationship that sucks? And then if you are a divorcee, it's more acceptable now and you have an easier time getting remarried. Whereas before, if you had been divorced before, like, no chance I'm ever getting remarried again. A lot of older people are sort of using divorce as a way to sort of bring them some kind of happiness in life. And also, as I mentioned in a previous video, there's a lot of cheating amongst the older people. Men over the age of 50 cheat at a rate between 50 and 60%. So that's a big amount. So amongst the older people, 42.5% of them get divorced because of cheating, whereas amongst the younger people, the newlyweds, 21.3%. But the other biggest group of people to get divorced and are at most risk of divorce are actually the newlyweds, people who've been married for 4 years and under. And amongst the newlyweds, the biggest reason for divorce is just marked as personality differences at a rate of 40.9%. So in Korea, when you do the divorce by agreement and you fill out the paperwork, there's a box that you have to check reason for the divorce. And the one that they just all click is just personality differences. But within those personality reasons, a lot of lawyers and therapists sort of speak about the certain issues that newlyweds are facing in Korea. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So there were 4 major reasons why newlyweds were getting divorced that I found: parents, money, chores, and childcare. So one of the biggest things that newlyweds fight about is the amount of visits that you have to the in-laws' house. And it tends to blindside a lot of women, but let's say the boyfriend's not living with the parents, and maybe he goes and see his parents on holidays. Suddenly, after marriage, it's like, oh, now that we're married, let's go see my parents once a month. In very extreme cases, I've heard of it being like once a week. And that's because there's this thing for like Korean men where after marriage, where it's like, okay, now that I'm married, I have to do something for my parents. And that takes the form of visiting or giving a monthly allowance. So they feel like there's some sort of responsibility they have to their parents. In dating, it's not really something that they brought up or discussed. It's just something where right after marriage, they're like, okay, now let's go to my parents' house. And she's like, well,
what are we doing at your parents' house?
Fight. Especially because in a lot of cases, it doesn't go the opposite way. That's something that a lot of therapists are saying that Korea really needs. It's like whatever we do for the husband's family, we do the same thing for the wife's family.
Equally.
To some people, they still have that traditional mindset where the husband's family is the one that we focus on. Women are saying, for what reason do your parents deserve all of this attention, etc.? What therapists suggest is that however many times you visit the husband's family, you should visit the wife's family. So there are some people who every month go visit both families. You're also required for every birthday to go and have meals with the parents, especially in cases of mother-in-laws. They want to go to your house and you as a daughter-in-law have to cook for her. Then women are sort of saying, well, my husband's not cooking for my parents, so why am I cooking for your parents? Like, we're not, like, this is modern day. And there's one phenomenon called 안부전화, which means you calling to check in on your in-laws. A lot of mother-in-laws sort of require that their daughter-in-law call them every once in a while. On the extreme end, I've heard of cases where it's like every 2 to 3 days.
Oh, no.
So a lot of people are saying nowadays, like, can we just get rid of that culture? Like, what's up with that? So because we're sort of in this like shifting period where the people who are traditional are like very traditional, and then you have some people who are like sort of in between. Then you have some people who don't want to do any of the traditional stuff. But then like before marriage, they don't really talk about what kind of culture they want to have after they get married. So it causes a lot of issues. So there's been some sort of education for the mom-in-law. So people sort of know that you shouldn't behave that way. There hasn't really been that for the wife's side of the family. So there's so many cases of people getting divorced because of the wife's family over interfering and stuff like that too. But also a lot of people fight when it comes to the monthly allowance for the parents. After you get married, you're a full adult now, so you gotta pay your parents back. There's some people who don't believe in giving your parents monthly allowance or whatever, but there's still a lot of people who do. That's something that the couples will sort of fight about too, especially if you're trying to give more money to one side than the other. And that's sort of why a lot of people have decided not to get married nowadays. People don't want to deal with the culture and the things that come with it. So I've heard that a lot of people are just opting to live together, like without getting married, because if you don't actually get married, then the old people feel like they can't really interfere in the marriage. The next big thing that a lot of couples fight about and get divorced over is chores. So I mentioned in a previous video, but when you look at worldwide statistics of men doing household chores in Korea, in the world, they came in dead last. On average, men were doing 45 minutes of housework a day. But when you look at the OECD average, it averages 139 minutes of housework a day per males. The next country that had the lowest level of men doing housework was India, and the men averaged doing 52 minutes of housework a day. And that balance is really hard for couples to find. In most cases, both people were living with their parents until marriage, and even as an adult working, you go home, your mom has a meal cooked for you, she cleans everything. So people have never had to take on the responsibility of a whole house before. Oh, now we're responsible for everything in the house. We have to clean. We have to change the toilet paper roll. And that's difficult because you're doing it with someone else who you have to learn to live with and start a new life with. So a lot of people, that difficulty that they feel being out of their parents' house, they sort of attribute with marriage, and a lot of people find it to be too hard. So the next biggest reason that I heard that a lot of people get divorced in newlywed stage is people having debt and not actually telling their partner before marriage. Apparently this is a big thing. Every single video that I've watched, the one thing they say is there's a lot of cases of people not really disclosing their financial situation. Of course, you know, when you first get in a relationship, you try and put your good foot forward and you want to present yourself in a good light so they like you. Like, that's just a natural thing that people do. But I think in Korea, it's like times 100. There's more of a pressure to have people really like you. So people go above and beyond to get people to like them. But by doing that, sometimes they don't present themselves in a very honest way. And I think when you are getting married, you need to both present yourself in an honest way. And then they're like, oh no, you scammed me. So they have this thing where they call it like 사기 결혼, like this is a scam marriage. I've heard cases of people acting like completely different people all through the dating phase, and then right after marriage, suddenly just changing completely opposite. I've also heard some really funny stories. There's this one lawyer who was talking, and they said the most interesting client that they had come said that everything was great, but on their, wedding night, her husband just like took off his wig. Apparently he was like bald.
Surprise,
In the middle and just had like hair around the side and didn't tell her that he was wearing a wig. And I'm not trying to make fun of people who are bald, but like that's kind of something that you should disclose before you get married, along with other things. There's this show called 이혼 숙녀 캠프, and what it does is it takes couples who are thinking about getting divorced and they pretend like they're sort of having a mediation and they share like all the issues that they have. It's really fun. There was a story actually I watched like 2 days ago where this wife was saying, like, while we were dating, he showered a lot. Like, Korean people typically shower a lot, like twice a day. I think they shower too much, like Korean people sometimes. Cleanliness is something that's very important to me. He's like, yes, I'm very clean.
Oh, I'm clean!
Immediately after marriage, she was like, he stopped showering. Like, he would only shower like once a week. And he was like, yeah, I don't really like shower that much. It's like, why wouldn't you just be honest about that when we were dating before we got married? She was complaining that he don't even brush his teeth every day. I hid his toothbrush in a place where I knew he could not find it because I wanted to see how long it took him to go and ask me where his toothbrush is. And she said she hid it. 2 weeks later, he went and said, hey, where's my toothbrush? She's like, 2 weeks he did not brush his teeth. But anyway, Korean people typically shower a lot. Nobody is dirty here except for that man. Just showing you like how people will totally be like, oh yeah, I'm clean, I do this. And then after you get married, they're like, no, actually, I'm not.
Why are you lying?
Now you're my person. Divorce is kind of hard in Korea. So once you're here, now I can just like show who I really am. But it's like a little bit more extreme than what I'm used to hearing in America. One of the lawyers that I watched sort of summed it up in a great way and said, I think there's just a lack of conversation about certain things. And I think that's the biggest issue that's causing a divorce. And if you think about all the issues that I even just talked about, I think a lot of them stem from just a lack of having that conversation, especially because, as I mentioned before, the cultural shift is happening. And that is all that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you don't miss out on my Korean skincare sale. Again, it's only available till December the 8th. All the information will be down below. And if there's other topics that you want to talk about or things that you want to add to what I said down below, let me know, because obviously there's no way to know 100% every little thing. And if there's other topics you want me to talk about, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video and like to see more videos, please subscribe to my YouTube page, which is down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, like me on Facebook, and I will see ya.